We'll just wait for attendees to be able to log on. All right, let's begin. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. As we are waiting for people to log on, maybe you can introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're calling in from. Great. I'm just gonna see, make sure that. Okay, here we go. I think the chat function was disabled. So everyone, welcome. Please introduce yourself. Let us know where you're calling in from, and as we begin this amazing, exciting webinar today with the second cohort of ECDAN's Knowledge Fellows. So it's my pleasure, everyone. Welcome. Yes, please make sure you select on everyone so everyone can see where you're calling in from. Okay, well, my name is Shakupre. I'm the Global Technical Lead for the ECD Action Network. Oh, welcome, everybody. We have people from all over the world. And it's my pleasure today to welcome you to this webinar on ECDAN's Knowledge Fellows Program. I'm going to introduce you to ECDAN's co-chair of the steering committee, Dr. Nirmala Rao, who's the Serena H.C. Yang Professor in Early Childhood Development Education at the University of Hong Kong, for her opening remarks. Over to you, Nirmala.
Thank you, Shakufe. Greetings, colleagues and friends. My name is Nirmala Rao, and along with Francis Abooth, I am the co-chair of ECDAN's Knowledge Fellows Steering Committee. Along with members of the steering committee, Lucy Bassett, Beatrice Matafwali, Stephen Lai, Joan Lombardi, and Aisha Yousafzai, we warmly welcome all of you to this ECDAN webinar on developing new early childhood development knowledge products. As we all know, early childhood is a critical period in a child's life, and the experiences that a child has during the early years play a significant role in shaping his or her future. The first years of life lay the foundation for later educational achievement, health, and economic productivity. A large body of research has demonstrated the cumulative benefits of investing in early childhood development. This research has documented the plasticity of early brain development, the higher economic returns of investment in early childhood compared with adulthood, and the positive effects of early childhood interventions on child development, school readiness, academic achievement, physical health, and cardiovascular risk. The empirical evidence on the importance of the early years for human development has also led early childhood education to be recognized as generating exceptional returns, being a powerful equalizer and preventing disadvantaged children from being left behind at the starting gate of school. Against this background, it is not surprising that a target related to early childhood development and education has been included in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Shikufe will tell us more about ECDAN's Knowledge Fellows program. Suffice to say that the program provides opportunities for early career, early childhood development professionals from the Global South to receive professional development, networking connections and mentorship. They do this while working on a project that aligns with ECDAN's priorities and a project that has potential for knowledge exchange. The Knowledge Fellow program was launched in 2021. This evening, we are delighted to listen to presentations by our second cohort of Knowledge Fellows. Our 6 Knowledge Fellows are Bethlehem Girma from Ethiopia, who is designing a repository of costing tools for financing quality early childhood education. Aanchal Kapur from India, who is developing a knowledge repository on global ECD systems. Giang from Viet Nam, who is examining the support of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Vietnam. Jaqueline Natal from Brazil, who is researching effectively financing ECE at the municipal level in Brazil. Sai Rajandiran from Malaysia, who is developing a global library of parenting resources. And last but not least, Pema Thinley from Bhutan, who is analyzing the effectiveness of the pre-primary subsector in Bhutan. We look forward to listening to these early career professionals tell us about their knowledge products and engaging in fruitful discussions with them. I'm sure this webinar will be an enriching experience for all of us, and I look forward to the engaging discussions and valuable insights that will emerge. Thank you for joining this webinar, and please let me turn the time to Shikufe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nirmala, for those comprehensive remarks. So as Nirmala shared, I'll share briefly with you the overview of the ECDAN Knowledge Fellows program and what it is for those who may not know. So the Knowledge Fellows program, with the support of the Viet Nam Family Foundation, was established just in 2021. We're here with the second cohort, and the aim for the program is to create opportunities for early career professionals, not young professionals, but early career professionals, regardless of age, whoever is interested in global ECD, to receive professional development, mentorship, and networking opportunities while working on a project that advances what the global community is demanding. The fellowship program is the quality oversight is done by a steering committee that's co-chaired by Dr. Francis Aboud, Dr. Nirmala Rao, and also with members Dr. Aisha Yousafzai, Dr. Lai, Dr. Lucy Bassett, Dr. Beatrice Matafali, and Dr. Joan Lombardi, who was with us until last year. Without them, this would not be possible at all. So just really quickly, there are about 6 fellows that are selected every year. There are different tracks every year. So this is an example of what some of the tracks might be. They are matched with a mentor a professional mentor who has relevant experience in the area that they're interested. They meet with their mentors at least once or twice a month. They share with them their work plans and various drafts of their products. What they work on, there's a wide range of it. They work on things like policy briefs, knowledge repositories, research reports, etc. Outputs are shared on ECDAN's website, as well as through webinars like the one today as well. So really quickly, this is just a sampling of where the fellows have come from so far all over the world, as well as the mentor range is from all over the world as well. And you know, we've just launched the next the next fellowship after this round, where we've received again applications from all over the world, and we're really looking forward to introducing them to you. But without further ado, let's hear from the fellows themselves. So I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Lucy Bassett, who's a professor, associate professor at the University of Virginia. Over to you, Lucy.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone from, it looks like all around the world, all different time zones, all different sort of entry points into early childhood development. We're thrilled to have you here and really thrilled to hear from the Knowledge Fellows themselves. So we will begin hearing from Jaqueline Natal from Brazil and hearing about some costing and ECD's spending work that she's been doing. So I'll hand it over to you, Jaqueline.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy. Let me share my screen. Okay, here you go. So my project aims to understand the expenditure per child in early childhood education by Brazilian municipalities. To start, I will give you an overview. I will talk a little bit about the methods. Then I will try to bring the main findings, but I really recommend you to have a look on the report to have more information, more details, and there we have more analysis. So I really recommend you to do that. And finally, I will talk about the plans to use the project. In terms of the overview, I think it's important to highlight that municipalities are in charge to offer early childhood education in Brazil, and we have more than 5,000 municipalities. The enrollment in ECE is the main public policy to foster early childhood development in Brazil. And in terms of access, Brazil has made a significant advance in the last 2 decades, but this access is still unequal along with low quality. When it comes to the expenditure per child, basically, the expenses depends on 2 factors, political priorities and financial resources. In terms of financial resources, I think it's important to emphasize that we approved a new fund called New Fundeb. And what I'm trying to say is that since 2020, we are increasing the investment in ECE. So this information is really important in the context of our project. When it comes to the methods, we use the CIOPS data, which is the main education budget data, and we focus on the 95% of the financial resources. But today, I will talk more about the constitutional minimum spend of 25%. So basically, from the revenues, municipalities must spend 25% in education, and it's compounded by own and fundable resource. Regarding the main findings, what we have here is that the annual average expenditure per child through the constitutional minimum spend of 25% is a significant amount. As you can see on the graph through the blue bar, we have the annual average expenditure per child through the CIOPS data. And this is 4 times higher than the annual average expenditure per child through the FINBRAS data, which is another official data in Brazil. It's about municipal finance. And also, this annual average expenditure per child through CIOPS data is higher than some estimated costs. This estimated cost is based on some levels of quality. And this is really important to say because when we talk about this estimated cost in Brazil, we always see this as the dream, you know. And what I'm saying here is that according to CIOPS data, we already spent this amount for daycare and for preschool. And yes, we have difference between the major regions, as we can see here, for daycare and for preschool. But it's important to say that when we look the percentage of the municipalities per level of annual expenditure per child, we have that at least 80% of the municipalities spend more than $2,000 per child. So just to have an idea, the minimum wage in 2019 was equivalent to $253. So this is a significant amount. but we need to be cautious when it comes to interpretation of it, since there is a significant variation in the expenditure per child throughout the school year. In addition, at least 1/4 of the municipality's expenses per bimester is compounded only by fundable resources that requires to be done in a determined way. So I'm not sure if we are using out the full potential in terms of financial management to guarantee an enabling environment to foster ECD. I will need to stop here, but I really recommend you to have a look on the report to have more information about the expenditure per child through other financial resources, about the driver of the expenditure per child, the total revenue and the expenses in CE, the relationship between expenditure per child and the outcomes, and the cost of inaction, which is the net economic benefits foregone for Brazil. In terms of the plans to use, we want to publish this project. And also, I see this project as a starting point for future investigations, but especially a big contribution in our debate, especially I see this as a change on our speech from Brazilian municipalities don't have enough financial resources to how are Brazilian municipalities spending the financial resources. So thank you very much. Lucy,
you're muted, Lucy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I found your last point to be really fascinating about what is the framing, what is the question that we should be asking to policymakers, which I think is relevant to a lot of the topics we'll cover today. For those of you who have questions for Jacqueline or for upcoming Knowledge Fellows, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, and the speakers themselves will respond to some specific points, and we'll have a brief Q&A section at the end after they've all spoken. So let me just introduce our next speaker, who is Giang from Viet Nam, who will speak to us about the really interesting topic of supporting caregivers, which we all know is really important, of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Vietnam. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone from Vietnam. My name is Giang. I'm a knowledge fellow in the parenting track, and it is my pleasure today to present about my project about supporting caregivers of children with intellectual and developmental disability in Vietnam. So globally, most children with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families live in low and middle income countries with very limited access to healthcare, education, and especially early intervention. It is also often the case that not enough attention and resources are dedicated to research to improve the quality of the services provided to the children and their family. And there are also structural, socio-economic, and cultural differences that shape the experiences of the families and the children across different settings, which means that the research outcomes generated from higher resource settings do not always translate well into the local context. So the aim of my project is to contribute to better representing children and families from the resource-constrained settings in the global literature on intellectual and developmental disabilities. And this is achieved through a literature review to capture the existing evidence and identify research, implementation, and policy gaps in supporting caregivers in Vietnam and with the potential applications to similar settings. So my literature review identified 19 articles and reports in English and Vietnamese that pertains to the two research questions. Firstly, on the experiences and support needs of caregivers, and secondly, on the support programs, initiatives, and interventions that have been implemented. It is not a systematic review, but it's rather an initial mapping of what has been done. I will now present some key findings from the review. Regarding caregivers' experiences, the major themes were the impact on caregivers' well-being, particularly the higher level of stress that they experience, along with the experience of discrimination and social isolation. Parents also lack access to professional support, and they have less informal support compared to parents of children without disability. The literature found that gender and cultural factors also play a role in shaping such experiences, and further details of this analysis is provided in the full report. In terms of support needs, there is correspondence with their experiences. So parents in the reviewed studies expressed their needs to connect with other parents, to share experiences, and also for psychological support. They also need access to high quality professional services. And finally, they need access to further education and training to help them better support their children at home. So this leads to the next key findings about supporting caregivers programs. So the literature review identifies 4 programs: the Portage program, the Family Management Intervention program, the Online Parent Mediated Intervention, and the Caregiver Skill Training developed by the WHO. All of the programs provide training and coaching to parents with an aim to provide parents with skills and knowledge to improve child outcomes and or family outcomes. So in my report, I summarized and compared the key elements of each program using the template for intervention description and replication. And here's an example. So in terms of providers, 3 of the 4 programs have used local teachers as trainer for parents, and then parents eventually become the person implementing the strategies and the interventions at home for their children. Most training takes place at home or local hospitals and in the form of in-person training and coaching through home visit or via telephone and mobile devices, saving travel time and cost. In terms of modification, it is important to know whether the programs that were adapted from existing curriculum, for example, the Caregiver Skill Training Program or the Portage Program, have been modified and how, but such information were not provided in the reviewed literature. So from such description and comparison, some common themes and potential practices and areas for future research have been identified. For example, as I mentioned earlier, most programs use a task shifting approach achieved through providing training for parents. And this is delivered by non-specialist workforce such as local teachers. So a question for future research would be, what is the minimum requirements for the teachers or the facilitators to effectively deliver training and support for the parents without the support of the specialist workforce? The programs also show the potential of using technology such as video conferencing and smart devices to deliver training. However, it is also important for future programs to carefully document the process of validation, translation, and adaptation that took place in the local context in order to provide evidence for future replication. And this will conclude my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. If you're interested, the full report will be available shortly afterwards, and I look forward to your feedback and further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we'll have a lot of interesting discussion because many of your takeaways are relevant for other kinds of training in early childhood and other kinds of programming. I'd like to move now to Sai from Malaysia, who will be looking at research, design, and development of Parenting Knowledge Hub for the Global Initiative to Support Parents.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today to support us. I'm Durgesh Rajandiran from Malaysia, and I'm an ECDAN Knowledge Fellow in the Parenting track. For this fellowship, I produced a Parenting Knowledge Hub for the Global Initiative to Support Parents under the guidance of my mentors. On this slide, I will cover some background information about the Global Initiative to Support Parents, also known as GISP. GISP is an interagency collaboration between 5 core partners to increase global support for parents and caregivers. It was initially formed during the COVID-19 pandemic Since the global recovery of the pandemic, the objective of GISP has now evolved to increase awareness and action in support of parents and to scale up parenting support programs to all families around the world. GISP created a theory of change to demonstrate how parenting support programs from early childhood to middle childhood and adolescence can result in positive multidimensional outcomes. This theory of change walks us through the different core contents that are commonly found in parenting support programs, such as caregiver mental health support, responsive caregiving, and the promotion of child autonomy and resilience. This diagram also covers the parenting skills that are explicitly taught in parenting interventions, such as spending quality time together with the family, or practicing non-violent discipline techniques with the child, or stress management and self-care for the parents. Finally, this theory of change also includes the longer-term outcomes of parenting programs for both parents and children, such as improved knowledge on parenting, reduced interpersonal violence, and reduced child behavior problems. This theory of change is in a unique position to present an evidence-based case for parenting support and for an audience that is not actively working in parenting, such as policymakers, program implementers, or researchers working in related sectors to parenting. I was tasked with narrating this theory of change in coherent paragraphs for our target audience to learn more about parenting across the life course, across strong evidence from different sectors, and across multiple child and adult outcomes. At the same time, the narration of this theory of change should also function as a parenting knowledge hub that has links to original sources and successful interventions, so that our target audience can choose to learn more about these topics. Here is a sample narration from the core content section of the theory of change. You will see that this narration contains links to original scholarly articles, the definitions of the terms mentioned in the title, and a brief description of how and when these core contents apply. Based on the learning objectives of our target audience, they can choose to learn just from reading the narration in the Parenting Knowledge Hub, or they can choose to engage further by clicking on the links to the academic sources. There are a total of 24 bullet points in the theory of change, and each bullet point in the theory of change is expanded in a similar way. You may be wondering, how will these individual write-ups benefit our target audience? Let's take a look at a sample of our target audience. The first example is an advisor to the Minister of Health, who is also the lead designer of a comprehensive postnatal intervention. The second is a student leader of a grassroots organization to support refugee families resettle in a new community. And the third is an education specialist in a low resource setting who is creating informal learning modules for teen parents. You will notice that all of them are involved in the design or delivery of programs targeting parents. They also come from experience in fields related to parenting, but they don't necessarily have expertise in parenting. Given their roles and portfolio, they would definitely benefit from evidence across different sectors and across the life course that demonstrates the impact of parenting support programs across multiple outcomes. Some of them may even want the original academic sources to help them prepare their documents and convince their colleagues to achieve the outcomes through a parenting intervention. Therefore, this Parenting Knowledge Hub acts as an entry point for our target audience to find the necessary knowledge and resources to design or deliver parenting support programs. Here is a snapshot of the timeline of the activities we undertook to produce the Parenting Knowledge Hub. I started with scoping for global parenting resources and mapping the different types of evidence I found. After I was done writing my first draft, I sent the draft for comprehensive vetting by my mentors and the GISP technical working group, which includes global technical focal points from 5 agencies who work across different sectors and across the life course. GISP is hoping to publish the content on their website in June 2023, so stay tuned for the launch of the website. Thank you, everyone. I hope you got something useful from this presentation, and I look forward to questions from you.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. And I know we all look forward to the launch coming up next month. And I'm sure there'll be questions for you about the content, the process. Please feel free to be putting your questions in the Q&A. And as I said, we'll come back to those after we hear from the last few speakers. So I'm excited to move on now. We have heard such an interesting variety of topics so far, from looking at ECD costing and spending to supporting parents. And now we are going to get even broader and hear from Aanchal from India about understanding systems thinking from an ECD perspective. And this is a narrative review, so I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Lucy. Can you see my screen? Is my screen visible? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aanchal. I'm a systems fellow at ECDAN. Today, I'll be presenting on my project, which focused on understanding systems thinking from an ECD perspective. Before I start, I think it's very important for me to sort of illustrate as to how complex an ECD system is. As we know that ECD is a highly intricate and constantly evolving system, which comprises of numerous interrelated components, levels, and stakeholders. However, despite its vital importance, the ECD system has been plagued by long-standing challenges related to equity and sustainability, which have been further compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic. So to build a more equitable and a sustainable system for ECD, it is very crucial for us to view the different components and levels of the ECD as puzzle pieces that must be intricately pieced together to unlock the full potential of ECD. But in order to achieve this, we require a new way of working and a new way of thinking. So what could be the solution? How can we go about achieving this? This is where systems thinking comes in as a promising approach that can help us put the puzzle pieces of ECD. To elaborate more on systems thinking, it is a suite of approaches that can help us address the complex challenges in ECD by recognizing the interdependence and interdependence of various components and levels of the ECD system. And by taking a systemic approach, stakeholders can gain a deeper understanding of the complex relationships between various components of ECD system and develop more integrated solutions that promote equity, sustainability. But despite these numerous advantages, systems thinking for ECD remains an underdeveloped area, and there's scarcity of documented evidence on it from an ECD lens. So the systems project aimed to address this lack of documented evidence on systems thinking for ECD through a narrative review that includes examples of ECD initiatives that illustrate application and promotion of systems thinking and emerging insights. The review presents 5 case profiles of large-scale, multi-level, and multi-component ECD initiatives from different countries and categories of ECD to demonstrate the vitality of systems thinking for ECD. It offers a practical and a comprehensive resource for ECD professionals and policymakers who are interested. One of the examples included in the narrative review is Chile Creche Contigo, which is a national program that expands access to ECD services using a multi-sectoral approach involving health, education, and social protection systems. This initiative exemplifies how systems thinking can address complex challenges by recognizing the interrelationships between different factors that influence child development. And by involving various stakeholders and using a monitoring and an evaluation framework to track progress, the initiative demonstrates how a system-level approach can promote equity, resilience, and sustainability for ECD. Additionally, the narrative review also encapsulates several cross-cutting insights that emerged from the analysis of the 5 initiatives. These insights highlight the importance to prioritize problem over the preconceived solution and transitioning from a project or a program mentality to a systems mindset that considers the bigger picture. Additionally, stakeholders should collaborate to build a winning coalition and prioritize equity and inclusion for all children. To achieve these goals, investing in workforce development is critical to building capacity and expertise. And finally, recognizing the importance of monitoring and evaluation are essential for ensuring success. These insights can provide practical guidance for ECD professionals and policymakers who are interested to implement effective and sustainable ECD initiatives. So what were some of the key takeaways that emerged from the narrative review? The narrative review does shed light on the crucial role of systems thinking in promoting equity and sustainability for ECD program. It illuminates the need for ongoing documentation and evaluation of such initiatives, as well as emphasizes the importance of collaboration and continued assessment. It is also important to note the limitations of the review, which lies in its scope and methods that are limited for comparative analysis, and the fact that it does not necessarily cover all possible ECD initiatives that use systems thinking approaches. It's a starting point for future research on this theme. Moving forward, future research can build upon the insights from this review in key areas, which include prospective evaluation of ECD initiatives using systems approach, developing tools and framework to improve effectiveness, utilizing emerging technologies, enhancing collaboration and co-designing, and learning from successful examples. So if you are curious about how systems thinking can be leveraged for ECD, the review is an excellent resource to explore. Thank you everyone for your attention, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive presentation. And I think there's so much in there about the examples you talked about, the kind of big picture vision of systems thinking, the takeaways about what we need. So please do continue to put your questions or feedback. What are you finding useful? What is interesting to you about these presentations in the Q&A or the chat, and the fellows will be monitoring that and responding, and we'll come back to them with some questions at the end. I'd like to now move on to Bethlehem, who is coming to us from Ethiopia, who there we go, who will talk about a landscape review of costing tools for early childhood development. So please share with us your experience.
Thank you, Lucy. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. The landscape review of costing tools, which is delivered in an online user-friendly repository of costing tools for ECD, is my knowledge product from this knowledge fellowship. My name is Bethlehem, and I've worked under the mentorship of Emily Gustafson-Wright from Brookings Center for Universal Education. And I'm grateful for all the support provided. On my presentation today, I will cover the background of my project, the objective, the methodology, the topology of the costing tools included in the repository, and next steps for going forward. As you have heard already, and as you may all know, early childhood development provides a multifaceted benefits at various levels, at the child, parent, caregiver, community, and by and large at the national level, and also for the next generation. Yet ECD programs are poorly financed, particularly in low and middle income countries. Hence, it is so crucial to advocate for more investment into ECD and enhance efficiency and effectiveness of the programs. Data in general, and specifically cost data in particular, is essential to promote ECD investment decision, as without data, policymakers and donors cannot make fully informed decision about the best way to utilize and also invest limited resources. Cost analysis, as also commonly referred as costing, enables policymakers, donors, researchers, and implementers and others to answer questions about cost economy, cost efficiency, cost effectiveness. And these questions, like, for example, how much will it cost a program? What would be the cost of scaling up a program or an intervention? What are the cost drivers of an intervention? Or what is the cost per beneficiary, or what's the cost per output, which is a cost efficiency question, or what is the best way to achieve a certain outcome, which is a cost effectiveness question, or a cost benefit analysis of what is the value that we've created by this intervention or ECD program, and compared to especially the costs that we've incurred. So in this, costing tools and guides help to do the cost analysis. Costing tools facilitate cost analysis by enabling users to capture costs and also to do the cost analysis by providing them with a range of calculation estimates and ways to simulate costs. Cost guides, on the other hand, help establish processes and procedures to our cost data, like how do we capture the costs, what are the approach that we follow. For example, the Brooking, the one on the top, the Brooking childhood cost calculator, for example, is an online publicly available costing tool, which enables users to enter cost-related data in a straightforward survey form. And then it helps answer, for example, questions like cost economy and cost efficiency, and also in conjunction with impact data, it also enables to do a cost effectiveness analysis. The one in the middle is the USAID cost analysis guide. So as I said, cost guides provide a guidance for establishing processes, standardizing procedures, and also providing us an approach, like a cost approach that needs to be followed. The ILO care policy simulator, which you see on the third row, is, for example, an investment simulator. It's a macro simulator tool. It helps to do a simulation of a simulation exercise to calculate investment requirements in 4 care policy areas, including early childhood care and education services. So what are the challenges? Yes, we have this available resources out there, but what are the current challenges that we're facing in ECD costing? One is it's not easy to locate costing resources, tools, and guides. And another one is, even if we've found them, it's sometimes a complex task to choose a suitable tool or guide. And there are also, on top of, like, there are also already known challenges. There are differences in metrics, measurement approach, concerning comparison and transparency. And also there is a low capacity to conduct a costing analysis. So how can this project help? So this landscape review of the costing tools is aimed at creating an online user-friendly repository of costing tools in order to facilitate easy access and selection of ECD costing resources for a myriad of users in the ECD field. The process that I have followed in doing this project includes a desk review, crowdsourcing, and survey, like trying to engage with those who are working in the space, and also using social media platforms. So based on this process, 7 templates and 6 guidelines are included in the final review, and also they've made it into the online ECD costing repository. This is the snapshot of the ECD costing repository. It has the costing tools and then also the costing guides, and along with a filter to help people navigate through the website. And this is accompanied by a topology of ECD costing tools and templates. So in general, this is to create a kind of a one-stop getaway to various ECD-related costing resources. And these features also help people to, or those who are interested in ECD costing tools, to select from the available resources there. So what is the next steps? Yes, let's promote and let's share these resources, which are now available in the website. And let's keep on, the next task will be keeping on enriching the repository and also tracking use of these resources, and finally documenting the learnings, because now we have these resources, but how are they being implemented on the ground and what are the lessons learned? So these are the next steps. I really thank you for your attention and look forward to the discussions and the comments in from my side.
Thank you so much, Bethlehem. It's great to have these real concrete tools that people can use. And I see a lot of interest in the chat for people to get access to the tools you're mentioning and some of the things that other Knowledge Fellows have mentioned. So I think one of the steps is, before getting people to use them, getting them to know about these, which you've done a great job kind of starting off here. We have one more fellow to hear from. Last but not least, we will be hearing from Pema from Bhutan about a pre-primary subsector analysis tool. And after this, we'll come back and try to think about what we've learned in all of these presentations. So Pema, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Warm greetings from Bhutan. I'm Pema Thinley, and my mentor is Mr. Marcel Tucker. And my project is on furnishing a report on status of early childhood care and development program in Bhutan, particularly using the pre-primary subsector analysis tool. And those findings are from the perspectives of the program officers, then district education officers, and the ECD facilitators, as they are the main stakeholders of the ECD program in the Bhutan. And this particular project aims to find the strengths, current practices, what are the gaps and challenges, and accordingly provide the actionable recommendations for the betterment of the ECD program in my country. Then if I share a little bit about the methodology, the project employed the mixed method, having both quantitative and the qualitative. And I've used the interview and the survey questionnaires to collect the data. And for those interview and the survey questionnaires, the questions were being adopted from the pre-primary subsector analysis tool that has been developed by the UNICEF. But however, it has been contextualized based on the relevance in the particular country, that is Bhutan. And if I may share about the key findings, as you have seen in the earlier slide, under the core functions, there are 5 areas, 5 core functions, and for the enabling environment, there are 4 areas that determine how the enabling environment of the ECD program is in the country. So moving to the key findings of the core functions, firstly, the planning and budgeting. The report findings reveal that the plans are based on the global evidence, current data, and the planning are done consultatively with the relevant stakeholders. Moving to the curriculum development and implementation. Although in the country, there is no fixed curriculum, but the early learning development standards has been developed to guide and implement the program. And on top of that, it has been widely implemented. But however, the findings reveal that there is a need for the revision of those documents, as most of them are more than 5 years. And regarding the workforce development, the findings reveal that there is a need for the clear recruitment strategy in the ECD workforce, and also institute the accrediting body that monitors and look after the pre-service trainings to ensure the quality and the relevance of a program. And on top of that, there need to be the continuous professional development programs need to be enhanced, and there is also a need of the clear career pathway for the ECD workforce. And regarding the family and community engagement, it is very positive to find the finding that the families and communities are included as a strategic partner in the ECD program in the country. And on top of that, the parenting education is mandatory in every center. Then regarding the quality assurance, which is the there is a comprehensive quality standards in the country currently. And on top of that, there is tools to monitor the quality of an ECD center, which is called QMTEC, abbreviated for Quality Monitoring Tool for ECD centers. But however, findings reveal that there is lack of dedicated budget for the monitoring of the ECD centers. And on top of that, there needs the training for all the monitoring officials is very much important and needed. Then moving to the key findings of the enabling environment, there are 4 areas. Firstly, the ministerial leadership. There is dedicated division called ECD and SEND division under Ministry of Education and Skills Development that looks after the ECD program. But however, findings reveal that there is need for the educated staff in the lead ministry having background in the early childhood. Then regarding the policy and legislation, there is an urgent need for the national education policy, which is currently lacking in the country, which actually impede the effective planning and budgeting. And on top of that, if possible, there need to be established a separate ECD policy or act. Then moving to the financing enabling environment, the report findings recommend to have the sustainable financing mechanism in order to ensure the perennial and the dedicated financing for the ECD program, which is currently lacking because most of the financing sources are from the donors and there is no fixed or the dedicated financing mechanism. And moving to the public demand, the demand for the ECD services have been increasing over the years, but there needs to be strengthened ownership and the continued support from the local government in order to ensure the sustainability of the program and to have the perennial support from the community. In my last slide, I have next steps. So let me share my next steps after finishing this report. Out of many actions to be done, so I have selected few, which is critical and need the immediate action. Firstly, I want to present having an advantage of being and working in a lead ministry, Ministry of Education and Skills Development. So I would like to present my report findings to the executives, particularly executives of the Education Ministry, having the higher impact factor compared to others. But however, I will share my findings to the other through the online portal. The next one, prioritizing out of many actions, I would like to facilitate the development and the endorsement of the holistic national education policy, which is very crucial and which is currently lacking and affecting the effective planning and the budgeting in the country right now. So it is very important to have the national education policy. Currently, it is in the draft stage. Probably we need to refine and later endorse. Then finally, the development of the clear recruitment strategy and the setting the clear career progression pathway for the ECD workforce. In order to, this is the one of the best approach to motivate our ECD professionals as well as retain in the particular profession. And to know and understand and to have the holistic understanding of my particular project, please go through the project report once it is being published in the ECDAN knowledge repository. Thank you so much for your time and have a great evening, and in some other cases, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Pema. Again, some of these same themes coming up across presentations about the need to support the workforce, have clearer sense of what the workforce can expect. Thank you so much to all of you for your extremely clear presentations. You're keeping to time. I think hearing from you is really motivating and exciting to think about, a cohort of rising ECD early career professionals. There are quite a few questions in the chat. Many of them are for you specifically. So I'll ask you to scan those after this Q&A, but I wanted to take the chance to hear from you a little bit about this experience and what you learned, what was rewarding, and sort of what you're taking forward. I think this is a really unique opportunity that ECDAN has provided, and you were selected in a very competitive process Nirmala and the rest of the steering committee and I reviewed a huge number of applications, and so I think it's of interest to many of us who are here to not only hear about kind of the content of your work, but how this has benefited you. So if I could go around and hear from each of you, maybe something that was really challenging about this experience, something that was rewarding, and what you're taking forward, whether it's continuing the project or in your own personal career. And if you can't think of all three of those things, then just pick what you can. So something challenging, something rewarding, and what you're taking forward. Who would like to? Pema, are you ready to go?
Okay, sure.
Thank
you so much for the chance. Regarding the challenges, because since I'm working in the government agency, it was very difficult for me to balance, although it's a personal problem though. And I had a clash between the meetings, and I have also my the official meetings, and also had to manage with ECDAN time. The balancing the work was a bit difficult, although it's a minor thing. And I was very glad to have the mentor, Mr. Masataka, who was very much immersed into the ECD profession, and he has a rich knowledge about the ECD background. So I'm very happy to have him, although our time difference contradicts, and it was one of the challenge. And regarding the benefits, the Knowledge Fellowship Program, it creates a platform for us, particularly the younger ones who is new to the ECD field. It creates a platform to share our knowledge, exchange our knowledge, and learn more, and build passion more. And on top of that, it also builds as a person, because it creates an opportunity to research. It creates an opportunity to build, particularly in the networking and the collaboration, not only within the Knowledge Fellow, but also with the mentor and also with the organization, ECDAN. And thank you so much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Who's ready next? Just unmute if you're ready.
I can go.
Thank you.
I think for me, the challenge was the project. It is a understudied subject in my country, despite we have this amazing structure in terms of financing to EC. I think it's something new, or at least it's something understudied. I have been talking with more than, I think at least 10 specialists, professors, education secretariat, and it was a really difficult subject to dive into without some answers, obvious answers. So I think it was really amazing to see the results of that, and to see this project as a starting point for future investigation, because we need more of that, especially if you think that in Brazil we have this amazing structure. We have advanced in terms of access, but we need to improve quality. And I think one of the key points is to look about financial management. So I think it was really challenge, but it was really good. In terms of reward, I think to be in contact with the professors and the ECDAN team and the fellows was the great thing. And my plans is to continue to study that. I think it is really important, and I want to do that. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jiang Li, can you go next? Just a quick brief comment.
I think I would like to mention that the highlight of my journey is through the connection with other fellows. And so early on in our journey, we had an informal monthly meeting where we all shared part of our work, either our project or our previous experiences. And so that was a really great opportunity for me to connect and to learn from other fellows. So that definitely was a highlight of the journey.
Thank you. Sai, any comments from you?
Sure. So one challenge is that my product is quite broad and spans across different sectors and the life course. But I come from a background primarily in language development and early childhood. So knowing where to find the resources, what kinds of resources are valid was definitely a challenge, but I had a great support system in the form of mentors in the GISP technical working group. And then one benefit, actually two benefits, I think, two big benefits that I got is one is learning how to communicate well in sentences in different fields other than what I'm familiar with. For example, gender sensitive norms is something I don't have experience in, even though I identify as female. A comment that I got is that I'm not very sensitive in how I write. So that's one benefit. The other benefit is the network in like Southeast Asia, which I didn't have before. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Bethlehem?
So for me, it's a relatively new area. Yeah, my experience previously is on finance, but ECD is relatively a new area. So it just opened up a lot of learning opportunities for me. So this is one of the biggest things I really appreciate. It made me read a lot on the area. It's not about like finance costing, but it's also on a way its application into ECD. So which was quite interesting. One thing that also I appreciated is the positive environment which enabled knowledge fellows to thrive and learn and progress. That's a big thing from the ECDAN team and my mentor and also my knowledge fellow colleagues. From my readings, what I've also appreciated is in my theoretical understanding of ECD and ECD costing, there's a lot that's happening in the costing arena and at the global scale, especially to enhance the coherence of the ECD costing. And then I was thinking, this is like SDG 17 about partnership being applied to SDG 4 on the education. So it's nice to see these things, and I hope going forward, this will again we will be able to see this being applied on the ground, and then we will have more lessons. So this is like going forward, this is where I want to also follow up the project, how it is being applied on the ground and what are the lessons. Yeah, that's been.
Thank you. I hope you can continue to do that. We need it. And then Aanchal, last words from you about what you're taking away from this experience.
For me, the topic systems thinking, since it's a very underdeveloped area in ECD, that was one of the challenges as to which resources to sort of refer to and how to go about it. But due to my constant guidance of the mentors, it became a little easy from having a hazy understanding to ultimately creating a product which can help kind of lay foundation for this theme. And one of the highlights, like Giang also mentioned, like this opportunity to connect with fellows in the global South and getting the opportunity to also connect with stalwarts in the field was one of the highlights of my fellowship.
Thank you so much. You'll also get to see in the chat that some people have been celebrating you and congratulating you, but also giving you some advice. So you can take that forward. And we all do really hope that you'll continue this work and continue sharing your insights and your learning with all of us. We're all part of this community together. I want to take a moment now to thank you and shift to the great opportunity of getting to hear from the mentor perspective. A number of you mentioned how important it was to have guidance, the positive environment and support that you got from your mentor. And so we are lucky to have 3 mentors here today who are going to speak to us a little bit about their experience and their perspectives. So if I can invite Yes, oh good, I have Kim, and Massey who are joining here. And I have a few questions for you. You've had a chance to mentor at least one knowledge fellow, but now you've had a chance to hear from a number of them, which I'm sure you share my feeling of just feeling really inspired and excited about the energy that's coming from these, you know, early career professionals, the amount they've learned, the amount that they're putting in the world to share that we need in this field. And also this talk about kind of reaching out into other sectors and communicating with those from different, maybe different perspectives. So I'd like to hear from each of you just a tiny bit of context about what you did in terms of mentoring, and then what was rewarding for you about the experience, and if you have a sense of how it affected or impacted the fellow that you worked with or your own work or professional perspective. So maybe I can start with Massey.
Yes, thank you very much. And I am personally happy that I serve as a mentor for Pema, and he's a great guy. And what I did, I reviewed his learning goals. I provided feedback. Then I also supported with developing his skills in that area. And I worked with Pema and a lot. And we looked at how we wanted to explore the status of ECD in Bhutan, and using the EC Accelerator Toolkit as a key tool, and which is 2.2, sorry. And what surprised me most is that I was positively surprised that in Bhutan there is a clear roadmap and coordination mechanism, and also financing for EC financing. However, there is no budgetary allocation for EC in the country, and if countries are to move ECD forward, then there should be domestic financing, especially on the part of government, and that is key. And I am happy it came out clearly as one of his recommendations. The most rewarding thing about this entire experience is that I can say Bhutan and Sierra Leone share similar contexts, and we are in budgetary allocation for EC is very much minimal. For Sierra Leone, we are 2%. So I was able to share experience with him, how we engage education stakeholders, how we engage in national leadership, and how we are still advocating for an increase and budgetary allocation for EC, which is just 2%, and leadership and opportunity impacted on me because I had the opportunity to learn from the context of another country and in another continent. And I also believe the mentor also and gained a lot of experience, and he now has the knowledge to conduct an analysis into the ECD landscape in his country, and he can now, I can say confidently say, he can now support his country, especially the ministry where he works, to look at the subsector in detail, and also work on the recommendations which he has brought from his knowledge and product, and see how they can operationalize some of those recommendations, which are very key in terms of workforce development and curriculum and implementation and planning. And it's key, and I believe he has gained a lot of experience in that direction, and he's now ready and set to provide support to his colleagues and the ministry at large in terms of developing the EC subsector in this country. Over.
Thank you. So I loved hearing that. I mean, I think it's helpful to just hear from your perspective, what did you actually do? We heard from the fellows that they consulted with their mentors. We saw one person, had a sort of a timeline when she checked with her mentor, and to hear from you about what you actually did, but then really that you had the chance to learn from another country. So, your perspective is different than if you hadn't had this opportunity. And just hearing about how Pema, which we saw, but from your perspective, just how much more prepared he is to be able to not only have the content knowledge, but really work with the different stakeholders, which he mentioned was challenging to start with. So let's hear from Kim Bowler. What was your experience mentoring? What was surprising or rewarding? And what kind of impacts did you take note of?
Oh, thank you so much, Lucy. I share the same enthusiasm you do for hearing all of the great work that we got to experience today. And thank you to ECDAN and all the support that we received as mentors. Kate Milner and I mentored Aanchal Kapur on the systems thinking front. And the systems thinking topic itself is something that there's a global effort that's being worked on. Jaqueline, other folks, many of you on the call are working on it. So Aanchal's project and scoping her project and helping her think about what's needed right now to inform the broader systems thinking globally was a big part of what we worked on at the beginning. How do we frame what this project can do, should do, given that she's working full time and doing lots of other things. So that was something we worked on at the beginning, plus lots and lots of going back and forth on the format, how to best convey the information, and also a lot of puzzling through, like, what does it mean to apply systems thinking to, sort of the global picture out there. And that's a lot of what we worked on together. I was really thrilled and surprised about Aanchal's quick ability to put the insights that she has from her own experience at Pratham and elsewhere into this pretty challenging topic of what are systems, what is systems thinking, and what do people need to know about it to contribute to their work in an ongoing way. And I really feel like something I had put into the chat, the idea of seeing programs, hearing policymakers, going out into other places and getting that experience helps you to be able to say on the front end, I know these things are going on, but guess what? We don't have a literature yet on them, right? So there's this bridge that we're often, a chasm we're often faced with where we're like, I've seen it, I know it's happening, but we don't have the written up papers to support whether it's effective or implemented well or whatever the challenges and barriers might be. So that was something I was like, oh gosh, that's a problem that we need to think about solving. And one of the ways is by getting out, but also encouraging people to write things up, even in the early stages of implementation, and bringing an implementation science lens to the questions so that when we have studies or can get studies funded, we have a basis and are able to cite them in the literature. Because we know these things are happening in the world, taking the best of the science, but we don't often have quick turnaround, and open science will allow us to do that more and more. The thing I found incredibly rewarding working with Aanchal is she was so great about saying, like, so what about my professional path? Like, what's, and to me, outside of the project, that was very rewarding and something I love to do. And I know we'll keep on doing that going forward. So those are some of my reflections.
Thank you, Kim. I can tell you brought a lot of energy to the mentoring role. And I love this concept of puzzling through and just having time and support to puzzle through with someone else or with a variety of other people, because really getting that starting point right of what the focus should be, what the priorities are, who should be involved, what's the question, is really essential. And then I love that idea of following through and writing it up. Other Kim, can we hear from you about your experience and perspectives?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I want to echo what Massey and Kim have said. What a privilege this has been. I mentored Carlotta Nelson, who was in the first cohort of fellows, so I feel so grateful to be a fly on the wall, hearing about all the amazing work that the fellows have done in this cohort. So I thank you to the fellows, thank you to ECDAN and the mentors for this space. So I worked with Carlotta, as I mentioned, in the first cohort, where she was looking to develop, in response largely to COVID and learning disruptions and school closures, develop the Early Learning Community Radio Library and envisioned it as a global collaborative space for free audio resources and tools for young children 0 to 8 and their parents, and having resources available in both English and Spanish. And this was largely, we knew at the beginning of COVID, everything moved to remote as possible. And for many of the communities that we work in, that we live in, many do not have access to internet or a screen. So remote options were not always the best path forward. And so she wanted to explore developing a global library of resources, starting in English and Spanish, and then expanding to other languages. What was so rewarding from that experience was working, I think as Massey and Kim have said, is working with the fellow, seeing how creative and thoughtful she was to her approach to the barriers that came up along the way and how she navigated them with so much, again, thought and creativity and foresight. I was really, really impressed and inspired by her. Something that really surprised me is how willing we worked together to develop sort of a classification system for the library, as well as identifying potential media makers and content creators globally who would have quality educational audio resources, who might be willing to share them. And I was really surprised at how many were willing to provide their resources for free to this library. I wasn't expecting that. That's frankly not the norm. But I think that largely speaks to both Carlotta and her approach, as well as an understanding of the global importance of providing these resources to families. I think even for my own professional development, it was really important for me to see a content creator outside of the space that I traditionally work in at Sesame Workshop, and to see sort of the legal and technical challenges, as well as the challenges around the tech infrastructure. How do we host this library so that it's available easily to users? And so it was really helpful for my own work, particularly as we continue to work in humanitarian spaces and think about tech and infrastructure needs as part of humanitarian response. And, you know, a critical component of our theory of change is that, our critical assumption is that children have regular access to content. So how can we work with partners to make sure we're supporting that tech infrastructure? And that's really, that's a seed that Carlotta planted. And so I'm very grateful for the partnership I was able to have with her through the fellowship. And I just can see more and more amazing things happening and coming out of this current cohort. So many, many thanks.
Thank you. I love that. Hopefully all of you fellows are hearing this, that you may be planting seeds with these seasoned mentors who you probably look up to. I mean, I think we all look up to the good work in our field, but you may be planting a seed and really shifting the way they think in their work. I see we have Nirmala here. I just wanted to invite you to make any comments about what you've observed. And then I have one final question for the mentors. Anything you want to share, Nirmala, from your perspective?
Just 2 sentences. It's been just absolutely wonderful to hear the knowledge fellows and the mentors, the energy and the passion and the quality of the work that they're doing. It's just so obvious that, you know, everyone has enjoyed the process. They've gained, it's been really wonderful. I think it's also part of our obligation as more senior professionals in the field to mentor the next generation. And we have our 3 wonderful mentors who are just showing us how it should be done. So there's just to say a big thank you to the mentors, and really congratulate the Knowledge Fellows, because I know how hard you've worked and you've really done us proud with your presentation. So back to you, Lucy.
Okay, thank you for that. You have the big picture, having worked with different cohorts, so it's great to hear from you. My final question for the three mentors is really forward-looking. This program was intended to support professional development and early career professionals working on ECD. It seems from everything we've seen here that was accomplished in a variety of ways. But looking ahead now, what do you think more is needed to support early career professionals in this field, especially from the Global South? What can we be doing more of? Who should be doing it? What recommendations do you have? And let me go in backwards order. So I'll start with Kim Folds.
That's a great question. I think continuing the work here and even expanding the time frame, because I think what we found is that so much could happen in that short amount of time, but having the space and obviously the funding along with it to see things, to be able to iterate, right? To experiment, because it feels like often in our work, iteration, experimentation are such luxuries, but that's where the real learning and innovation comes in. And I think there's some tangible ways. I think publication is really important. So opening up space to making sure that there's room for diverse pathways of publication, right? Certainly peer-reviewed articles, but also a much more, there's a wider swath, I think, of publication platforms that I think are really critical for the fellows we see here, for young ECD professionals. Because there's so much, I mean, just from what we've seen today, how much incredible innovation is happening. And there's so much amazing work happening, but we can't learn from it if it's not shared widely. So how can we help build and create that space for broader dissemination of all of this great learning?
Thanks. And I think I saw in the chat some comments about language. So I think another piece of this publication and dissemination is making sure that these things, you already talked about the radio library starting in English and Spanish, but thinking about other languages so people who are not English speakers can access
absolutely
these tools. Okay, Kim.
Sure. I think that I'm sure the committee has talked about so many of these ideas already, and the question is how to get them funded, right? So I'm talking about things like getting the cohorts together, physically together, thinking of really great technological approaches to making that happen in a more intimate kind of a way. In other advisory groups for fellows that I've been part of, they've worked really hard to structure internal or within cohort activities in an ongoing fashion, as well as across cohort, because once you build multiple cohorts and people find each other and the kinds of topics they're excited about, encouraging joint publication, encouraging presentation at meetings and developing sessions, those are all things that, I would just say, be empowered, go, work on those yourselves, but also for those of us who I might consider myself a late career, how do we make those opportunities happen for the mentees and our colleagues as they go forward in their careers? So those are a few ideas, sort of emphasizing the ongoing collaboration. I loved hearing about the informal fellows meetings that you all created yourselves, but keep them going.
Thank you. All right, and Massey, your thoughts on going forward?
Yes, I believe my colleagues have said relevant recommendations. And for me, what I believe should happen now is, and not just the mentors providing platforms for themselves, and the mentees, we should be in a better position to provide the platforms for the mentors, the cohorts, for them to share on their various topics in the area of expertise. And webinars like this on the quarterly or semi-annual basis can be very much relevant in terms of them providing key topics. And again, one thing again that can be very much useful in terms of helping and the knowledge fellows to move forward in their next career pathway. So how ECDAN can kind of push this forward is kind of also trying to move in the pathway of and career exchange programs. Yeah, we can have, let's say, knowledge fellows visit countries, and if there is funding, as my colleagues emphasize, and then have a practical knowledge and also provide inputs to key global ECD topics at the country level. Over.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing us back down to the country experience and knowledge. I think hopefully we have some funders listening in who are getting ideas of some things to support, whether it's getting, sounds like the continued collaboration and community of practice concept is one of the big ones. Thank you all. Thank you, 3 mentors and all the other mentors who weren't here today, but who have been providing great support. Thank you to all the fellows. I will hand it now back over to the ECDAN team to conclude the webinar.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you to the fellows. To be quite honest, I feel like a very proud parent participating in a graduation ceremony. Thank you for working with us. Thank you for being the best that was selected. Thank you for your courage in tackling very difficult subjects. And thank you for learning with us, because you are the second cohort. And we're learning together on how we can improve this program. So many congratulations, and I hope you will celebrate together with your loved ones this evening, and in the future, hopefully we'll be able to meet you in person and celebrate together. And a huge thank you to the mentors. From a personal perspective, I know the value of mentoring. I would not have done what I have done today without the great mentors that I had in my life, who opened up opportunities, who shared their wisdom, who guided me, who challenged me. And that's the role that you have played in supervising and guiding and building the relationships and opening up opportunities for publishing, but also broader networking with the best in the field of early childhood. So a million thanks to the mentors. And we would not have been able to build this program without the steering committee. Nimala and Francis as the co-chairs, together with Lucy, Aisha, Beatrice, Joan, Steve, and others who guided us in really creating the program. And we're so grateful for your time, and we hope that you will continue to work with us so that we can achieve the bigger vision. So instead of 6 fellows, we can have thousands of fellows. That's the vision that we have. And of course, I'd like to thank Shekufe on the team who has also guided this program, Emily, Hannah, and those who supported the fellows with their great presentations. And of the many things that ECDAN has put in place and done, this is one of my favorite. Working with young people is so energizing. We are actually creating the leaders of ECD, expanding the field, but also in many ways, it's the young professionals that are going to generate the bold ideas that we need that can have greater impact, generating and asking questions about issues that we don't really still know very much about, generating the knowledge and sharing it with others, because children today are facing the huge challenges more than ever. And we need these big, bold ideas coming from this generation of ECD leaders. So I hope that we can grow this program to have really a community of practice, as some of you suggested, of young ECD leaders. But also at my age, I appreciate that we need to pass on the baton to the young people so that you can carry this work forward. And yes, please, young fellows, switch on your videos so that I'm actually speaking to you on the vision that we have for you. This is just the beginning for all of you. Be bold, be courageous, be true to yourselves, stay in touch with each other, stay in touch with these mentors. They are your friends for life, and always feel free to reach out to them and they will connect you to bigger things. But most of all, be true to yourselves. You are the ones who are going to influence the younger generation, the people who are younger than you. And I am counting on you as I also face the task of passing everything on to you to help us make a better world for our young children, for yourselves too, and for the caregivers that continue to struggle to look after their family. So thanks to everybody, and I wish you all the best. And I am fully invested, as many ECDAN partners, in the future of your careers. So many thanks, and have enjoyed the rest of the evening or the day wherever you are. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes,
Thank you.
As
Thank you.
fellows, I want you to give us one word for what this experience was for you. Let's go, quick, rapid fire. Giang, one word. One word.
Exciting.
Bethlehem, go.
Sorry.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, one word. One word.
We will continue. That's one sentence.
Oh, that's 3 sentences. One word. Jacqueline, what's your word?
Encouraging.
Empowered.
Encouraging. Giang, what was your word?
Empowering.
Empowering. Okay, encouraging. Aanchal, one word.
Inspiring.
Inspiring. Bethlehem.
Exciting.
Exciting. Durgesh.
I was going to go with inspiring as well.
Well, you have to come up with a different word now. Pema.
Enriching.
Enriching. Durgesh.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Not to put you
I
on the
don't know.
spot.
I'm running out of synonyms, Shikufe.
It's too late, I know. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a what. Does anybody have any final remarks or comments before we log off? We have this tradition on ECDAN webinars where we do, informal chit chat for a couple of minutes before we log off. But any reflections, anyone? Kim, Masi, Nirmala, Lucy, any last reflections?
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you, Nirmala.
Thank you so much.
That was great. All right.
Thank you.
I will drink to your success.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Please, fellows, stay in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Well done, everyone.